Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Thank you again for joining me here at the back of the range. I'm your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 30. 30 episodes. Wow. Not sure how that happened, but it did. Really can't thank you all enough for listening each and every week. Thank you to all the guests that have taken the time out to join me here, from Joe Buck to Steve Burkowski and good friends like Greg O'Mahony and Scott Kennedy. It really has been an amazing 6 months. As long as everyone is enjoying the podcast, I'll keep putting out episodes. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. All of the episodes can be found in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They can be found elsewhere, but those seem to be the main locations where everyone is listening to podcasts these days. The central hub of the podcast, where you can download all of our episodes, head over to thebackoftherange.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. You'll find that information in the show notes of this episode. Speaking of Instagram, we started something called Free Towel Tuesdays. We have some really nice caddy towels with the center slit in them, so you can put them over an umbrella or an alignment stick. They have our logo on them, and we're giving them away. So all you need to do is follow us on Instagram. We're at the Back of the Range Podcast. And on Tuesdays, we'll ask you to like the page, tell your friends, maybe give us a tournament pick like we did yesterday for the Open Championship. Anyways, we want to get some more participation with our listeners, and you'll be rewarded for it. So just a little thank you from us. And hey, it's a golf towel. You can always use another golf towel. So for those of you that do have one of these towels already in your possession, we want to see it on social media. So next time when you're out, you add that towel, post a picture, tag us. You know the drill. You've done it before. We have some amazing episodes coming up this summer. I can't tell you any more, but we have some great college coaches coming up, maybe an LPGA player, some amazing amateurs. It's going to be a fun summer. Hope you enjoy the podcast and share it. I can't emphasize that enough. Please continue to share it with your friends, who you play with. We can't thank you enough for doing that. Okay, episode 30. Our guest this week is Nick Gilliam. We've had a long line of Gators on the podcast, and we're going to add one more. This one's a national championship winner. Nick is not just a member of the 2001 national championship team that had Camilo Villegas and U.S. Amateur champion Bubba Dickerson, but he also won the individual title. We spoke about his time at UF, his time playing professionally, and one of the coolest damn jobs I've ever heard of in golf, after he got done playing for a living, of course. So, Nick, thanks for the time. Welcome to the Back of the Range. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ben. How are you?
Nick, I'm doing great. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Back of the Range. You know, we have tons and tons to get to with you. I mean, winning a national championship at the University of Florida, transitioning into the professional game, and having that amazing job with FootJoy that we're going to get to a little bit later. But we always start our episodes off with just a little bit of background information, give our listeners an idea how you got into the game of golf, where you grew up. So go ahead and give our listeners just an idea of how you got started in the game.
Sure. Yeah, it's I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, so my golf season was quite short. But as a young man, my dad is and still continues to be a very good player. He was county amateur champ 3 times and competed well in the state. So, of course, he wanted to be out golfing selfishly when I was a young man, which I can relate to now having a 3-year-old. But he sawed off some sticks for me, and I'd be chasing him around with a persimmon, Balata back then, of course. But you know, it was a great relationship builder and bonding time for us. And as I progressed into the game, around 12 or 13, it kind of was pretty quick to realize that I would be able to compete well in the state. So I started playing some state events. But with a short season, I still played basketball, being a tall guy. Sure. And as I quickly also realized I was kind of slow and didn't jump very high, that I should probably focus on one sport. And it turned to golf. So I was lucky. It's a great state to grow up playing golf in, but it's just sadly a short season.
Yeah, you know, Wisconsin really does have a lot of golf crazies up there. I mean, you just had the U.S. Open at Erin Hills, and obviously everything over at Whistling Straits and Black Wolf Run. But it sounds like just the weather and the opportunities in Florida, that's pretty much was a huge draw. Now, were you recruited out of Wisconsin to go play at the University of Florida? How did that happen?
Well, I was lucky enough when I was 16 to qualify for the U.S. Junior in Flagstaff, Arizona, at Forest Highlands, and I finished in the quarterfinals, and I'd lost in the quarterfinals, excuse me, to the eventual winner, Shane McMenemy. I ended up getting invited to AJGA premier events because of that alone. We didn't play much AJGA due to cost and travel time, etc. But we decided to come down to the one in Disney at the Magnolia and Palm Course around Thanksgiving that year. And my dad's wife at the time was my stepmom, had her brother living in Gainesville, Florida. And long story short, they saw my discontent with me not playing well because I hadn't practiced much leading up to that point because there wasn't really ample opportunity in Wisconsin to play golf in October, November. And they were nice enough to invite me to move down and live with them and give golf a full-time run. So it was a big step, big chance. I was halfway through my junior year of high school and just up and left, went to Gainesville. And I wasn't recruited heavily by Florida after that, but Buddy saw me pretty much every day because Gainesville High School, where I went, did practice at UF Golf Course. So he always claimed he was confused. He didn't know who I was because during the summer I would say I was from Green Bay versus Gainesville. So
nice. So basically just through through just opportunities through your family, you just found yourself basically practicing right in the home course for the University of Florida. And at that time, yep. Really strong, really, really good powerhouse. Now you spent 4 years there. You're a 3-time All-SEC academic selection. You were an All-American in 2001, no doubt heavily in part because you won the national championship as an individual. Tell me about some of your experiences and some of, just what was the team dynamic like at that time? Who were the guys on your team?
We had a really varied squad over time. We had, when I came on, Robert Floyd had just left, but we had Steve Scott, Josh McCumber was still there. They were great guys, obviously, both very competitive, which we can talk about later. But it's turned out that the Colombian connection really added the most interest to our team dynamic for sure. We had Camilo Benedetti come first, and then Camilo Villegas was a freshman when I was a senior. And then there were more Villegases and other Echeverias and Colombians that would keep coming up. But yeah, it was neat. We had a great pipeline of players that Buddy kind of kept bringing in, and not a lot from Florida for the most part. He'd really kind of try and change it up. But we had Bubba Dickerson on that team as well. We also had an Englishman named Ben Banks that was on our squad that was a walk-on that actually was the first person from our team to get full. He was the European tour status, but his family was of Genesis lore. So, we didn't learn that till later in life. He kept it a secret from us. So we wouldn't want to come visit his mansions in England, but there's no doubt. We had a varied squad, a bunch of great guys. A lot of us did our own thing, and that was prior to, what was considered extreme golf, physio, core training. So we didn't have those 5 a.m. workouts in the gym. We'd just go to the stadium instead, and people would be puking on the stadium stairs. So
you just kind of did your own thing, just and some of the guys on that team really you just kind of rattle them off. But gosh, you have Steve Scott, who famously lost to Tiger in the '96 USAM, and then you have obviously Camilo made it on tour, and then Josh McCumber with the whole the line of McCumbers, whether it's Mark or his brother Tyler, who's now playing web.com, I believe. Gosh, I mean, did you know you were surrounded by that many great players at the time, or was everyone just kind of on the same level? Did someone really stand out?
It's funny in college. I'm sure it's certain to most. For me at the time, no. I just was happy to play with good players and hope they would motivate me to be out there more and get better. But you would know it with Buddy because he would certainly pay more attention to those that were kind of doing the right things, because he did want to motivate you to be more like them. And that would be where it was more noticeable than not. and a guy, even Bubba Dickerson, he won a Western Amateur and a U.S. Amateur in the same summer, which is a feat that not many people have done. And he was playing, I guess he was anywhere from 2 to 3 on our lineup for the most part, So that kind of competition is hard to come by, and it certainly does motivate you to become better.
Sure. Well, you're mentioning Buddy now. Most people don't know. So that's Buddy Alexander, who was the head coach for men's golf at the University of Florida.
Correct.
86?
That's probably about 87 or so to, yeah. I don't know.
And then I believe
you're the researcher.
No, jeez. I know. Well, that's my fault. No, I was saying actually 87 U.S. Amateur winner, I believe.
Oh, no, that was the 1986 U.S. Amateur. Yes, I do know that. I've heard that story. In fact, I've been lucky enough to play golf with him at Shoal Creek later in life too, and he was quick to. He pointed out a lot of golf shots he hit during that championship match. So.
Yeah. We had Duke Butler the fourth on, who I think was there at UF a little bit after you, and he shared some pretty good Buddy stories. I think he liked to play matches against the guys, and Duke mentioned that he won one and then wouldn't hear from Buddy, wouldn't talk to him for a month. So I'm sure that in this platform you would have a plethora of stories you could share about your old coach. Anytime things got a little ugly for you guys out there with him?
Never. Well, that's a lie. So you know what? Buddy was just a great competitor. He still is. The guy he does not back down, and he grinds hard. And probably one of the first times I actually transferred back. I went to Chapel Hill for a semester before I came back to Florida. And what was neat was we were playing a match play tournament together, which usually the winner would get an additional pair of shoes, because we all got free shoes, but we just get one more nice pair that you could pick out.
Sure.
And I got paired against him in the second round, I believe. And on the second hole, I think I'd already won the first, and second hole he hit a bad approach shot, and he just full on helicoptered a golf club. I was looking over them. Ooh, this doesn't happen too often with an adult. Like, this isn't adult behavior.
That's the role model. That's the one that's keeping you guys in check, right?
Exactly. But he ended up taking his thumping that day, and I think he gained a newfound respect for his transfer coming back to play with him. And he did. He was very modest after the round, so it shows his ability to understand the complexities of the game. Outside of that, we certainly had several different run-ins on the golf course. There's no doubt Buddy would let you know if you're not doing something the right way, and you were aware where you stood on the golf course quite a bit, because Buddy was one of those types of coaches that he not only led by example on the way he would manage a golf course, but he expected that from a team captain, which I became later on, and would anticipate me to not make any mistakes that would, he could have to retell at the dinner table later.
Sure. Well, I mean, just through looking through all the different names, all different players you had there, you just have so many big, huge personalities. It's obviously not expected that everyone's going to get along all the time. Just, everything's going to be perfect. Is that pretty much commonplace that you felt with your team, where everyone was pretty much friends and everyone pretty much worked together, but there were times when things just kind of got heated and competitive?
Yeah, golf is certainly not a team sport by any means. So there were definite run-ins, whether it was between player and coach, player and assistant coach, player and player, and those types of moments probably only made us stronger over time, make you a better person in many ways if you hopefully adapt to the situation and learn from it. But I could definitely say that the personality component, not just with Buddy, but players, was evident. I'll never forget watching Bubba and Bubba Dickerson and Camilo Villegas argue over a dozen golf balls that Bubba left somewhere in a hotel room and Camilo picked up, and Bubba was mad because he forgot where his golf balls went. And Camilo said, "I found them. They're mine now." And I thought they were going to fight each other in the airport. They had to be broken up. But, those types of moments are what it's all about. We're competitive people. And in the end, it was all about individuals playing well for the betterment of the team. So, the individual component won out more often than not.
Well, and I'm glad you told that story because it kind of gives me permission to lead into another story. There was apparently some sort of a wrestling match between an inanimate object and Steve Scott.
Oh, well, Steve, he probably was one of the more competitive human beings that I've run across in my life. And I love him for that. He taught me a lot. That was one of the issues I most likely had as a professional player. I wasn't tough enough. And I'll tell you, Steve, he didn't want to lose to anybody. And I think it was Camilo Benedetti. We were playing the Raven in Arizona, and I guess in Tempe or somewhere around there. It was or Tucson, excuse me. It was Arizona's golf tournament. I believe Camilo Benedetti shot 28 in the back nine to kind of back end his way into top 5 or something like that.
Well, that's
yeah, it was pretty nice. And I think he beat Steve by a shot or 2 because of that. And Steve was a senior on the team and he wanted to beat everybody every time he went out. And he literally, before he put his clubs in our team van, picked them up about 1.5 feet over his head and body slammed them directly onto the concrete. And I've still to this day, I've never seen something quite as impressive as that feat. So needless to say, he got some new wedges and a few irons or ground him out, after that. But it was quite hilarious.
All because a teammate beat him.
Exactly. Yes. Well, he still wants to win the individual competition.
Nice. Good grief. I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna have to have Steve Scott on the podcast, see if I can get some good stories. But you mentioned.
We'll have to get him. I'll have to help you with that because he might tell some bad stories about me too,
hey, it works out good. So hopefully he'll listen to this and be like, all right, I got to get on there and kind of level this thing out a little bit. So, so you mentioned something really interesting. So you felt that your success was limited as a professional because you weren't as tough. I mean,
sure.
Do you have to be just an absolutely, psychotic competitive person to succeed as a professional?
Well, to be at the highest level, I believe you have to have a form of that. Yes. Does it have to be exactly that? No. I just tended to be complacent with I'd be happy with my top 5s. I didn't have the killer instinct to win quite enough. And Steve certainly had that. And, my first collegiate championship was the NCAA championship my senior year when I was graduated. So,
well, and that
shows something.
Yeah. So that leads us in. So you spend your entire 4 years, or you spend your entire college career at UF, and you get to the national championship, and, I'm not going to ask you to go through each and every shot, but
thank goodness.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. So we only have 7 hours to talk today. We can't go the full 9. But I mean, there's really no clever question I'm going to ask you that hasn't been asked before. But did it feel like a different tournament at the time? I mean, how did you compartmentalize everything to deliver at the highest stage in college golf?
Sure. Yeah, it was only my second NCAA championship too. At the time, we didn't qualify for the 2000 NCAA, and I played only in '99. It was at Hazeltine. And in '98, I was actually the 6th man and didn't end up making the trip. So we had kind of gained some momentum leading towards 2001 NCAAs. That was, you could kind of sense it as a team, and I was starting to play a little better, and had some really good advice from Chris Tootin, who was our assistant coach at the time, about simple stuff. It was just, focusing more on just engaging in my pre-shot routine, ensuring, tempo and alignment were appropriate. Not anything, like you said, that you haven't heard before, or questions or things that haven't been answered before.
Sure.
But I'm of the belief that I didn't know what was going to happen until, well, we had a rain delay, and I Ben Banks would probably love to tell the story. I was a big fan of talking to myself in the mirror, kind of like Stuart Smalley does, like,
yeah.
You're, gosh darn it, you can do it.
You
kind
can
of stuff.
do it. You're good enough. You're good enough,
yeah,
Nick.
That was me. And it was, we had probably 27 or I had 28 holes left the last day. And it was only then did I really realize that I had a chance to win. And that positive Stuart Smalley self-talk worked out for me. So good enough.
Hey, they can, no matter how you got it done, They can't take that away from me. You're NCAA individual champion of 2001. So
and team. Don't forget the team.
That's true. And the team. So let me ask you this, if you don't win a national championship as an individual and achieve that much, would you have still turned professional? What was the thought process? You're halfway through the year of 2001. Was it an immediate decision to turn pro? Was that something you were leaning towards even before the national championship?
Yeah, absolutely. I had intended to, but of course that reinforced all of my thoughts, and it actually brought me really only one start and a couple, and a little more endorsement money, which was obviously needed with our family. Well, not obviously for everyone listening, but we didn't come up with a lot, so it was very helpful for me to get off on the right foot. I may not have turned pro immediately after NCAAs. I may have played a little amateur golf during that summer. I had a chance potentially to make a run. That was a Walker Cup year at Ocean Forest, and just decided to turn pro instead. And I would have probably done nothing different outside of have a little more confidence going into my professional career.
Sure.
Really.
What were some of the exemptions or benefits and perks that you got from winning the national championship as an individual?
Well, I listed them. I got the first exemption I played in was the U.S. Bank Championship. It was also Tiger Woods' first PGA Tour event as a professional exemption.
Right.
He said "Hello World." I was more like "Hello Milwaukee." Nice to see you. Where are the brats and free beer?
Nice.
What can I do to fatten myself up around here? But and I did end up missing the cut. I shot even part of the first day and just ballooned day two. But then I got some opportunities I could have gone overseas quite a bit, and at the time was about to get married to a girl I dated in college, which we are no longer. But at the same time, there were more opportunities given to me than I could have imagined because of it. So it was a good time.
So you play a handful of events, and you make your way onto the ever popular at the time Hooters Tour, which was probably I guess that would be just the top mini tour, top national mini tour, I guess you could say at the time. It wasn't
it had a couple. Grey Goose was around for a little bit, and then the Tar Heel Tour, and that became E-Golf, I believe. But yeah, the Hooters Tour really was, that was the cat's meow of AA golf. Really, right. That's where it was. You're going to have a chance to make some money and play basically glorified gambling week in, week out.
Yeah, it's a lot different than it is now. It seems like you have a lot of these guys playing one-day events for these on these mini tours, making a couple $1,000 playing at a golf course, 30 minutes from their house. But this was actually a national tour where you traveled all over the country, just playing in. Well, as we spoke about earlier, you said shit courses and shit towns. So, but apparently you got a lot of wings. So
yeah.
So how
with a discount, mind you, with a discount.
It's so
funny. They weren't free. It was a discount.
So you I'm sure we could go and discuss all the different courses that you played in and all the different towns, but can you give me just a couple that most people would not have heard of that would just be like, where the hell did you play?
Well, yeah. Let's see. I think it was in Miami, Oklahoma, which is spelled like Miami. And that was a Native American reservation. And man, I'm trying to remember the name, but it was, you're just in the middle of nowhere for the most part. We were in just outside of Jonesboro, Arkansas. You're spending time and usually our favorites were places where there were a lot of casinos, so you could go and at least have something to do afterwards, because more often than not, you're lucky to find a Hardee's every 4 or 5 stoplights if there are that many in the town. So we definitely didn't always play the best golf course in the nicest of towns. So to your point, yes, shit courses and shit towns. But at the end of the day, someone was playing for $20,000 to $25,000 or $30,000, and some of the purses were even up to $50,000. So
Gosh, and did the Hooters tour, was it marketed to these towns where you'd have galleries and people coming out and watching you play, or is that too much to ask for?
Only in the retirement villages.
Oh my God, really?
Well, they not. Yeah, I mean, we had some of the best turnouts ever up in McCormick, South Carolina, which is north of Augusta. The whole neighborhood, the community just embraced the event, and I think they still do to this day, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Savannah Lakes is the name of the course. Actually, a very pretty place. But no, we did not have overly exuberant crowds. No.
Wow. And then you did play a little bit. You did tell me a story earlier that you did get to play a little bit in South America. So tell me about your adventures in Guatemala.
Yes. So,
where Nick Gilliam is a household name, apparently.
Yeah, well, or in hospitals. But regardless, we played a golf course where you could see an active volcano, which is really neat. And I think there are a couple out in the Latin American tour right now. Still have the same thing going on. I've seen a few pictures of guys out there playing, but it was a very challenging golf course. But lucky enough, we were there are different zones there based upon safety at the time. I don't know what it's like now in Guatemala City. Certainly every security guard did have a semi-automatic weapon on them. And, it's a little disconcerting as a kid from Green Bay, Wisconsin, but regardless, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you better take full relief from that car path, or else someone's going to mow you down with a semi-automatic weapon, apparently.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We had to be very cautious, but we did get bussed from our hotel to the golf course. So after, we'd always have with the Hooters tour events a Wednesday Pro-Am, and the Wednesday Pro-Am in this case, I was lucky enough to meet some very nice people. Seemed pretty high powered in the Guatemala area. So we ended up going from the Hooters Pro-Am to the actual Hooters for our post dinner, which was downtown. And there was a young gentleman that had been a bit overserved. I don't know if he played in the Pro-Am or not, but he was being removed from the restaurant.
Whoops.
Right in front of me. He was being removed for groping a waitress's behind, which regardless of country, I always say is a bad idea. And he as he was being removed, he picked up this kind of a three-legged lightweight placard holder and whipped it back at the restaurant just out of disgust. And I was the one behind him, and it happened to hit me in my eye, right in my left eye, right kind of just outside the orbital bone. And my initial reaction was like, what the,
right.
Kind of upset. And then I kind of heard a lady go, oh no. And it was blood spurting out of my eye, and got a pretty good cut. And they did the best they could to kind of bandage it up at the site, but realized quickly I was going to need stitches. So lo and behold, I ended up going to one emergency room where the tournament director, kind of executive committee member, Steve White, who's a great guy, funny guy, was lucky to be with him during the experience. He said, no, you're not getting stitches here. So we went to site number 2, and he deemed it approvable. So we ended up getting stitches. And, I went back and visited one of my physician friends. He said they did a fantastic job. So no scarring to date, and still doing well. In fact, I finished 7th that week with a huge bandage over my eye. So,
wow.
I got a lot of support and love from the Hooters girls on site as well.
Well, of course. I mean, your poor baby got into a fight or not in a fight, but you just got injured in their restaurant. They got to take care of you a little bit. So
yeah, it was love. It was nice.
Gosh. Hooters tour. Oh, someone has to write a book about the Hooters tour.
Well, that was kind of what I was planning to do once I left, and I decided at 30 to not play golf anymore. I was like, man, I'm just going to put all my notes down, but never came to fruition. Maybe someday.
Well, if you need a ghostwriter for it or need to get it recorded, I might be able to help out with that. So.
There you go. Good. Let's keep talking. I love it.
Absolutely. So, you didn't stay on the Hooters tour. You did play several PGA Tour events, and you also got into the 2005 U.S. Open. Now, 2005 was a crazy year for you regarding Q School, and then playing a handful of events, and then you get through local and sectional qualifying in the U.S. Open. So This is just a few years after winning the national championship. What was one of the times on the PGA Tour when you're playing in an event where, it did you feel tremendously overmatched? Did you feel like it was just really out of your comfort zone? Because this is, obviously it's just kind of right around Tiger Mania. So,
Sure.
What were some of the tour events that you played in that really kind of caught your attention?
Well, it was for me, obviously, the first one I played in 2001. That second day, I mean, the nerves that hit me knowing I could make the cut and the way I didn't respond as well as I wanted. Those are great lessons, though. And after that, I really felt more and more engaged and comfortable. My game got better. I was more consistent with, my shot shape, and I understood exactly how to plan out a golf course and continued to travel better. I mean, those are part of the things that you take for granted when you're in college. People put all your planning and trips schedule together and outfits, and you just get better at all that stuff. It just becomes more of a seamless process. And I know there are folks out there now that get exemptions straight out of college or even high school that have people helping them do it. But at the time, for me, that was how I was growing in the game. And the U.S. Open itself, I felt comfortable. I was playing as good a golf as I have in my life at that point. I've always been a very good driver of the ball and iron player. And U.S. Opens tend to lend themselves well to people that are hitting fairways and greens. And so I felt very comfortable that week at Pinehurst. But sadly, I missed by two strokes on the cut. But my dad was carrying the bag, which couldn't be a neater Father's Day experience for that weekend, which was a lot of fun. And I even got my name on the leaderboard early. I was 1 under through about 5 holes late in the day. So I was at the top of the leaderboard for a minute, but then once I saw that, my heart rate went up to about 180 beats per minute, and I made bogey. But still, great experience. Those types of moments will certainly be etched in my memory. I think outside of seeing my son make a hole-in-one or win a golf tournament, until then, those are my favorite memories.
Sure. And when you were playing PGA Tour events, was it easy for you, and this is kind of unrelated to maybe the specific events you were playing in, but when you were out there, did you kind of get a feeling that there were some people out there really fighting for a job, some people out there that were just looking to make a paycheck, and then other people that were really looking to win every single week, and you can kind of see that? Or
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it was easily discernible, no doubt. Those that were scraping it around and making ends meet were pretty easy to notice the difference between the way their comfort level was seen between those that have been there for a while and understood, literally horses for courses. And I was lucky enough in the U.S. Bank that I did make the cut to have Joey Sindelar with me on the first weekend of the cut, or the first Saturday of that cut I made.
Right.
We were walking in a twosome, and the guy sauntered out. I was already grinding about an hour and a half before the actual Saturday. I think we're probably at 9:30 or something. And he saunters out about 20 minutes prior to his tee time, and he's holding a coffee and a donut, and just gives nothing to do but just, I'm going to hit a couple wedges. He had a Tommy Armour 1-iron at the time, which was just a rocket ship, man. He just whaled that thing out there further than my own driver. He's like 45 years older than me, I'm like, what the hell? Right. But he couldn't have been nicer, and he knew what he wanted to do. He would fly home on Sunday nights when he made the cut, because he pretty much made most cuts, and then he'd come back on Wednesday mornings and play in the Pro-Am and then play in the golf tournament. He'd done it long enough that he was just making his checks. And the guys that you could tell that were certainly different, were kind of had an air about themselves and were fairly untouchable. And that's a hard skill set to develop.
Yeah. Cause I kind of I'm fascinated by the dynamic of the PGA Tour, where they market the big high profile people, the Rickies and the Rorys and obviously Tiger and Phil and all those guys. And, but there's guys out there that this is just their job. They're not, they're going to be fine if they, they're fine if they don't win. They're fine. They just need to make some cuts, make some paychecks. And I mean, so you saw that out there. They
still fit the mold of their, what is a great great slogan for the tour, but that these guys are good or was a great slogan because they were very good and their game would travel. And,
sure.
But yeah, to them, maybe the fame and all of that just wasn't what you aspire, to have. You'd rather have the family life. And sometimes it's hard to imagine a Jack Nicklaus that had kids so early and, how he did. He was obviously a grinder as well, but, it's everybody comes from different means and has a story of their own. And yeah, you could see the dichotomy pretty quickly when it comes to good, better, best, which certainly is true in all forms of life.
Sure. And then, the U.S. Open that you made, getting through now, did you have to do local qualifying also, or did you just go right to sectional?
I went through the Grasslands in Lakeland.
Okay.
And on to Old Memorial in Tampa. It was hot.
I mean, is the pressure of now? I know you've gone through Q school. That's the pressure of the job. Compare that to the pressure of a sectional qualifier for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a great amount of pressure. I was lucky. I was playing so well at the time that I really didn't feel too much, but I've since felt it as an amateur trying to play against these guys. But no, at the time it wasn't too bad. It was my job and it felt right. But yeah, you want to be there as badly as possible. It was that there's nothing more to drive you to play in our national championship. I wish there was a Monday qualifier for Augusta, and then I would have been there too. But.
That would actually be nuts if there's a Monday qualifier for Augusta.
Well, they're going to have a women's event out there. They might as well have, a Monday qualifier. It makes sense. Open it up. But regardless, that's a whole different story. But yeah, I was lucky there also at Old Memorial to have my dad on the bag, and he pulled a few antics while we were out there, just keeping me loose.
We got to hear about this.
So he, let's see. For those that are listening or will listen, Old Memorial has, number 5, I believe, is a very challenging dogleg left par 4. I shot 67, I believe, and was leading by a few maybe at the turn, after 18. And I had already I think I birdied 3 and 4, so I was going nicely. And on 5, I just had a brain fart and pulled it right into the water, and I knew the second I hit it, it was going in the water. But my dad continually, as a good caddy and was fired up knowing he's got a chance to get me in the U.S. Open, was going to watch that ball down. And as I walked back to the bag to grab a ball and put my club in the bag because I know I was going to have to walk up and take a drop, he says, "Splash." I don't really think I needed to hear the descriptor of what just happened. That's not a good caddy move.
That sounds like he's a commentator move, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he was right in our group, and everyone knows. There's obviously the guy. I'm playing well, but he's been named Splash ever since, and it actually added levity to my stress, and it kind of made me laugh all the way down the fairway, and I made a good bogey, and we moved on. So
nice. Well, the Open that you played in, again, that was at Pinehurst. That was the one that the famous Michael Campbell.
Michael Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what people say about that 2001 national champion, so it's okay.
Oh, no, come on now. Everyone knows. There's got to be streets named after you in Gainesville, right?
There are, absolutely. It's just a matter of time. So
what was the kind of the turning point where you just were like, yeah, I think it's time to go get a job and maybe, start playing some amateur golf? Was there anything specifically that kind of moved you in that direction?
I didn't want to play amateur golf when I stopped playing yet. I didn't want to play golf. Yeah, I got burnt out on not getting through Q school. My last year, I stopped working as hard at it. Going back to Buddy Alexander, we used to have check-ins. And at the end of the year specifically, we would talk about what you've gotten better at. We talk about stroke average. We talk about just, efficiencies is gained. And I just kind of lost the juice out in the tour on the mini tours. And if you can't beat the guys in the mini tours, you're not going to beat the guys in the big tour.
Right.
So, and I'd seen a lot of older gentlemen maintaining their time out in the mini tours and, just etching out a life, but it wasn't for me. I knew there was more in front of me. And so I didn't get through Q school first stage. in 2009. And from there, I kind of knew that I wanted to do something else. Wasn't a great job market at the time, but I was just ready to. I was 30 years old, and I wanted to find a way to do something else, figure out what's out there for me. Golf will always be there, I'm sure, but I just wasn't ready to commit to it again for a while. So like a bad putter, sometimes you just got to put it on the shelf or put it, back in the rack somewhere to remind it that until it behaves better, you're not going to be friends with it. So that's how I felt about golf at the time.
Well, and then it's funny though that you mentioned that you didn't want to play, but then the job you get, you're still involved with golf, and you just kind of, I mean, when I saw the actual job title that you had at FootJoy, I was just thinking to myself, God, that sounds cool. You were the manager of amateur player promotions. That just sounds made up. So I mean, that doesn't sound real. So try and convince me that was a real job. What did you do for FootJoy?
First of all, getting back to your initial thought, there's no doubt that it came to me, and it took about a year before I even thought, and I wasn't going to play golf quite yet then anyway, but I was still interested in the industry. It would have been great to find a job in the golf industry right away.
Right.
But there just weren't any open. So anyway, what did I really do? I gave away a lot of product, a lot of free product to people that were deserving of it, and hopefully going to spread the good word about how great the product was.
Like podcast hosts, right?
Exactly. Well, maybe. Didn't you wear a lot of pink though? I don't know. I used to make people wear outlandish colors. I probably should have given you a lot of those pink shoes.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is a story about that I'll share as soon as you're done telling me what this hypothetical position you had. Go ahead. Manager of amateur player promotions.
What I would do is I'd go to elite events, talk to players about their interest if they wanted to have what I would consider basically a package within the influential amateur scene. This was primarily mid-ams too that I'm talking about, and we would give them those packages and ensure that they would stay consistently wearing them, so that within counts at the mid-am or the USAM, hopefully if they were to play in those or different events that had counts, they would help us add to those specific counts. And then I would help collegiate teams dress into our apparel and our shoes, help them with fittings. Imagine, I know it's hard to believe, but college kids tend to wear the wrong size shoes quite a bit. And then
I can believe that.
And then I would help with some of those bigger events during the course of the summer, like the Northeast Am or the Transmiss or the Porter Cup and Dogwood, ensure that they had whatever promotional product they would like to have from their tee gift. Now, it did become a bit overboard, and it still is somewhat, the gifting process, because I think in 2002, the USGA opened up the allowable limit of gifts that an amateur could receive. So it was a different thing for me. I didn't have that growing up in the amateur game. And there was a learning curve for me there, but it was fun. I got to see some of the greatest golf courses in the United States, meet some of the most wonderful people, and getting to travel was certainly fun. And I didn't have to pay for it, so even better.
Yeah. So help me understand the whole process of what an amateur. Now I know if you can't give stuff or that's very limited, you give it to the college, not the player. So I understand that. For
the college part, yep.
Yeah. So I understand that, but explain to me how a mid-am can get one of these. How they can get one of these packages from a club rep and not be in violation of their amateur status. So how does
the USGA
work?
From my understanding, I'm no longer in the industry, and I don't believe it's changed,
Okay.
but USGA allowed that there would be equipment exchange between manufacturers and amateurs. It's just the NCAA is the only institution that actually had policies in place that would say that it had to go to the college coach first and then hand it off to the player.
So if you have an amateur that, like, you have a mid-am that has just, that just travels all around the country and plays in a lot of high-profile events, you can dress them head to toe in FootJoy and Titleist clubs and Vokey wedges and Cameron putters and bags, and just completely take care of their entire equipment. And it's doesn't endanger their amateur status.
Correct. And I think the best analogy to put back towards your comment is, the Olympics, they've been doing it forever.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just asking just because I just kind of curious how that whole thing works.
Yeah, it is. It was interesting for me, and it was fun. I didn't have enough for everyone, but certainly those that did play the most and had championships on mind would get more of the attention. Just like I talked about Buddy with his players, the ones that were playing the best were certainly going to get the most attention. Sure. And that's the neatest thing for me was seeing the smiles on their faces, the gratitude, the thank yous. Then, I started to do, after a while, I just would name the packages, like after nicknames I would give them. So when they'd arrive at their doorstep, it would at least put a smile on their face, sure, when they'd arrive. So,
yeah, I remember when I played my only USGA event was a 2012 US Mid-Am, and I saw you there, and I forget what we were talking about, but you're saying something how no one's birdied it. It was at Conway Farms where they played the BMW.
Oh, yeah.
And something about I forget what we were talking about, but you said something about how no one's been able to birdie 18 or no one's done anything in 18, and you're like, you birdie 18, Ben, I'll get you a free pair of shoes. And didn't really need to give you my shoe size. Didn't need to bother telling you that because I did not. No chance. But
I was like, man, I can't believe he did it, and I didn't want to chip him to you or something.
No. I would totally tell you if I did. So no, not even close. Not even close.
Hopefully, you still have my card.
Yeah. I'll pull it up somewhere. So, or do some clever editing on this podcast and see what happens. But so you got out of the golf business, but you still do play. And now, you were working for FootJoy. When did you get the bug again to start playing? Was it just mainly being around all these great players that kind of gave you the impetus to get back into it?
Obviously, yes. And reinstating after getting the job was a no-brainer for me. So it did take, mine was a little over two and a half years, I believe, in my waiting period. It was definitely exciting to be able to play again. And I was lucky I had the connections to get into certain events, and sure. I competed well early, and after a while it got harder because at events I'd be working while playing, doing giveaways and shipping and dealing with all these things instead of just really focusing on being on the range. But right. It was fun. The duality of being in that sense was quite original. I was the first person to have the role with FootJoy. There's a new person that's replaced me. His name's, I probably shouldn't say it on this podcast, actually. He's a great guy, though. And there's no doubt I loved being able to play again. I found a newfound respect for it, but I wasn't going to shit courses and shit towns. I was going to the best courses possible in mint condition, playing against the best condition or best players in the amateur golf. So, and then of course getting to know the cocktail circuit a little bit with the mid-ams out there and understanding some of those opportunities, really that piqued my interest even further.
Yeah, that's a different world. I mean, we have people listening to the podcast that are, whether they're scratch players or 20 handicappers and everything in between, but that cocktail circuit, I mean, that is just the elite. The elite courses, the elite players. I mean, you're playing professionally obviously helped, but then also what you did in college helped. But the people in there, I mean, I was recently, I spoke to Gene Elliott recently, and he's in that world, and TJ Stewart's in that world, and sure. A lot of other people that I've spoken to. I mean, did you ever think in a million years to be playing on those courses and in those events at 30, 35 years old?
No, I never did. And it's a fun experience, and more often than not, you run across people that are the best. And, it's for those that are trying to network in certain industries, it's a great opportunity for them to do so. It isn't just all play. Yeah. There's certainly some work involved. But at the same time, I didn't play in all of them too. So I played in just a few, and then I would promote with product there. So, I'm hoping to try and re-immerse myself over time, but having a kid and a full-time job and limited funding certainly isn't possible to do them all. But
yeah,
a boy can dream.
Sure. Well, you can't play in everything, so that's why we're working stiffs, doing our thing.
That's right.
You mentioned your buddy Camilo Villegas from college days, and
Sure.
He's known for his cycling. He's known for his Jay Lindeberg fashion choices, and then also his unique method of reading putts. And did you see that in college? His Spider-Man brilliant marketing, but did you ever see that in college?
Well, funny enough, he didn't read putts like that before there are crowds. But
you mean if there's no cameras around, he just crouches down like everyone else?
Yeah, it's shocking,
Yeah,
I know, but it was one of those funny moments. I was still around Gainesville, and he was as well, and there might have been some experimenting, I guess, prior to said experience. But I think the first one that really was the highlight for folks was the Players Championship. I don't remember the year now. Shoot, I'm getting too old, but it was third round. I know that, and it was a back hole location at 17. We were having I think he finished third that year as well. I'm pretty sure about that. He was describing to me during our celebratory session at the Swamp Restaurant in Gainesville that, bro, I knew. It's a perfect spot. And it was. I mean, people were in awe. He had his leg hanging over the island green. I mean, you just can't beat stuff like that. So he was, what I can say about Camilo is he is one of the sharpest individuals I've been around. He plans things to a T. He got bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger during his collegiate career. And I'm proud of him. He's won a lot on tour too. People are surprised to hear his numbers, but he's been grinding it out for a while. But yeah. There's no doubt he did not do the Spider-Man at SEC championships or anything like that. So.
Wow. Yeah. No, that was brilliant. And gosh, I mean, I think he got a deal. Yeah, I just remember seeing commercials of him doing that. I mean, that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant.
Yep. So, great marketing maneuver.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. I'll fit this one back in too. So you had Buddy Alexander as your golf coach, and tons of stories with him and great experiences. But there also is a relationship that you have with the other ball coach over at UF. Tell me about one of the most recent times you played golf with Steve Spurrier.
Well, I've been blessed to play with a lot of great people in my life, but even as a Packer fan, there are a lot of folks I'd still like to check off the list. But being able to play golf, we played at Gator Golf Day. J.C. Deacon, the new men's golf coach at Florida, was nice enough to set me up with Coach Spurrier. Now that he's back as an ambassador for us, before he goes back to this new arena league he's figuring out. But the neat thing is he remembered me from college days, and he didn't know me until I won NCAAs, I promise you. But he knew me after that, and it's a great time to be able to play with a legend like that. He's not getting around as well as he used to. He's asking for swing tips as we were driving around, but he was great. And I had a beer with me while we were out there, and he wouldn't even have any. So I tried, wow. But he said he had to speak somewhere later that evening, an engagement. He's getting,
All right. So let me ask a couple remaining questions. We ask these at the end of every episode. It's a quick bucket at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. So 86, Jack won the Masters. Compare that to a potential fifth green jacket of Tiger Woods. Which would be the more substantial victory?
That's a tough question. And that's why you asked it. You asked it for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm going to say at this point, knowing what I see with Tiger's health and the competition he's got, I'm going to say Tiger's would be more impressive.
Yeah. All right. That works. You can give a major championship to anyone in history, whether they are alive or dead. No majors, 18 majors, male or female, doesn't matter. Who would you give a major championship to?
Well, my father.
That's a pretty popular answer lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to give Splash one. Which major would you give Splash?
Splash would love to win the Masters. Yeah.
That's a great nickname. That's awesome. That's perfect. Huh.
we'll see.
Well, Nick, I appreciate the time. I will definitely, we definitely need to keep tabs on your playing exploits. I know that you just got done playing the Tim McQuana Cup with a runner-up finish there up in Jacksonville. So
Yep.
we will wish you the best, and we'll keep track, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. And as everyone listening imagines, you probably have just stacks and stacks of Pro V1s lying around. So don't be afraid to send some my way.
Absolutely, Ben. They're right on the way, obviously, for my my payment to just, memorialize me. So thank you for that.
Oh, God. All right. Thanks for joining at the back of the range. I'll talk to you soon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
And there you have it. Another great episode here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. That was episode number 30. Gosh, thank you so much to Nick Gilliam for taking the time to share some stories from his days at UF and his days playing professionally. We're going to be back next week with another episode here at the Back of the Range, but let's give away another towel. So for those of you that are listening to the episode, you early birds that downloaded it right away on Wednesday morning, here's what you do. My email address is ben@thebackoftherange.com. Shoot me an email. Tell me who is in the three-way playoff with Jean Van de Velde and Paul Lawrie at the 99 Open Championship at Carnoustie. I know that no one forgot Van de Velde and no one forgot Lawrie, but who is that third person? First person that sends me an email, I'm sending you a towel. Thanks so much. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.